cost of feed usually kind of depends on the premix package that you're using. What's in that premix and what does it do for the animal? I know one big item that we're using now because of the veterinary feed directives that came out was essential oils and these different yeast products. What does essential oils do for the deer?
Well, the essential oils, in years past, everybody either fed CTC or knew somebody that was feeding CTC to their deer, chlorotetracycline. When the veterinary feed directive came out and that was removed, we had to find a way to replace it. Well, ironically, Ful-O-Pep already found a way about 15 years ago or so. We've been using essential oils in their deer feeds for a very long time. And what an essential oil is, it's not some new wave hippie type of thing. Sorry, I said that. It's not some new age kind of thing. Essential oils have been around forever. They are feed ingredients that have medicinal type properties associated with them. So in the case of these deer feeds, we have a proprietary blend of essential oils that go into it, and they consist of everything from oregano and clove all the way down to capsaicin or red pepper. And the whole idea of having these essential oils in there is that we have antimicrobial effects, meaning it functions like an antibiotic in the animal, gets rid of the pathogenic bacteria. Secondly, they tend to cause mood changes in the animal to where the animal feels healthier, happier, more comfortable, if you will. And then third, the majority of them, or the ones that are in this blend, cause vasodilation to occur. And so that's important because it allows the animal to deal with heat stress at a much greater level, and it also allows the animal to circulate more nutrients up into the velvet and get more nutrients deposited into the antler when it's in its rapid growing phase. There's other factors that are found in the essential oils as well, but one thing that you may be familiar with would be aspirin. 3,000 years ago, people used to go chew on a willow bark to get that aspirin compound. Well, we just go get aspirin out of our medicine cabinet today. Well, we've kind of come full circle. We're going back to the native ingredients that provided those medicines to us in our medicine shelf today.
I know another good benefit for digestive health and just overall health of the animal is the yeast products. I know we use a lot of the Alltech yeast products, and a lot of that was biomass or Actogen.
Mm-hmm.
What does that do for the animal?
Well, if you've ever fed deer, and if you are feeding deer, there's two things you can't control. You can't control coons and other rodents visiting your feeder, and you can't control birds that visit your feeder. Coons and rodents are notorious for bringing E. coli into that feeder. They're filthy animals, and they defecate, urinate, and they basically end up spreading E. coli to your deer herd by them going and getting a free meal out of your feeder. Birds do the exact same thing, and they tend to bring salmonella. So biomass or Actogen, as Dennis referred to just a second ago, functions in the digestive tract to tie up E. coli and salmonella, make it non-harmful to the animal, and it passes through the animal in a safe way and gets deposited out the back end. It never allows for an infection to occur in that animal. It's one of the things that differentiates the Ful-O-Pep line of feeds, the Muy Grande feeds, from those other feeds that are out on the market. Most of them are not, and actually none to my experience is using a mycotoxin binder and a E. coli salmonella binder. We use a mycotoxin binder called Integral.
I'm just going to ask you that's another yeast product, is it not?
It's a yeast fraction. And so Integral is important in that it binds the toxins that are produced by molds and fungus that grow on feeds. So if you've ever put your feed up into a clean feeder and your feed was clean and it got wet, it sweated overnight, you can have mold growth occur. Even though we on the formulation side and on the manufacturing side do everything we can to prevent that from happening. Or more commonly, you have feed hang up in a corner, and you might have feed that's been there for 7-8 months, just sitting there, never getting through the feeder, and so that feed can mold over time. Well, mycotoxins are detrimental in that if they're at a high enough dose and the right ones, they can kill the animal. More importantly though, they tend to cause very poor performance when they're found. So the animal doesn't grow at a fast rate, it definitely hampers antler production, milk production, fawning, all those kind of things. So we use integral in the feed to prevent any type of mycotoxin problems. But more importantly, the real reason we're using it is because a lot of people feel the need to feed either corn or whole cottonseed at the same time that they're feeding deer in their pastures. Whole cottonseed and corn are notorious for carrying aflatoxin into the feeding system. Whole cottonseed can be very, very high in mycotoxins. Corn can as well. So we want to make sure that even though we don't necessarily encourage people to do it, but we know people are going to do it, that we provide the safest manner of feeding their deer possible.
There another Alltech product. I know there was a lot of mention back in the days about copper, high copper levels and zinc for antler development.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's this new studies with these organic trace minerals. And we also use some of these Alltech products in there, right?
Right. And so, yes, in the old days, basically, if a little bit was good, we used a whole lot. And so what we found out is that the animal can't utilize all of those very high levels. So one of the most digestible or most bioavailable forms of trace minerals are the organics. So we use organic copper, we use organic manganese, organic selenium, organic zinc, organic cobalt, and even organic iodine in the feeds to make sure that the animal gets as much of that as possible absorbed. Secondly, we balance that out by providing inorganic sources because you can overwhelm any one absorptive channel for those trace minerals. So we provide an inorganic source and an organic source so that that animal can actually get as much of that mineral into its bloodstream as possible.
What about vitamins? Are vitamins important?
Vitamins are. The big ones that you'll see on your deer feed tags would be vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E. Those are important. They're definitely important. But more importantly are the B vitamins and some of the other things that are not included in most deer feeds. We tend to think that all ruminants don't need B vitamins because we were taught that in school, we've heard that somewhere, and that's technically maybe true. But when you're asking an animal to perform at maximum levels of productivity, we need to supplement them with additional vitamins. So we add B vitamins even. We don't just add vitamin A, D, and E. We add B vitamins, we add vitamin C, we even add vitamin K, because vitamin K and vitamin C are very important in bone production, or bone growth. And that's primarily what an antler is. We're asking them to grow bone as rapidly as possible into as big a size as possible.
There was also some mention on some yeast products that might tie up some anthrax. Is that correct?
That's a little more iffy. And the reason I say it's more iffy is it depends on how the animal gets the anthrax into its system. If it inhales it, they're not going to do anything. But if it's an ingested form, or like what was more common with humans that we see, they get it on their skin, the yeast products can help, and they can help to tie that up. We don't necessarily worry about anthrax in the majority of the state, but if you are in that location where anthrax is prevalent, a triangle of Texas where it's highly common, and it basically functions in kind of a cyclical cycle, you want to do everything you can to protect it. So we do have things in our feeds that are designed to help the animal overcome anthrax exposure, if you will. And that's the goal of how these feeds were set up. We basically realized we're not feeding, down the road. We're feeding, if you will, across the state, and we need to take everything into a factor when we put a deer feed